Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Roam with Romy. Today is Advice Day Tuesday, so I'm going to be giving a lot of advice and tips in this video, more particularly on how to vet and find your husband, if that is what you want to do, and also how to successfully choose the right mate for you. So this is an important topic that I think every woman should know about, or if you don't know, well, I'm here to kind of share my experiences and my tips and also kind of let you know what I think has worked for me in the long run. Finding a mate is hard. It is not easy to find your person. I started my dating journey when I was 19 years old. So prior to that, I've only had boyfriends here and there, but it's like, your little church boyfriend that, y'all be pecking outside of church in between services and stuff. You quickly just hand each other notes and you talk on the phone, but that's the most that I've ever done when I was younger. And it wasn't until I got into university that I started dating and started really navigating the dating world. Your girl went through it, y'all. I done went through it. I done dated guys that were not good for me. I dated men who I thought were the one, but they weren't. And now that I'm married to my wonderful husband, I realized that a lot of it was more so because I didn't have a direction. I didn't know how to navigate through it. Now that I've gone through it and I've gone through those years and those painful years, those pain points of dating and learning about new people and meeting new people and seeing what works for me, I thought that it would just be great for me to just share all that information with y'all. I'm just an encyclopedia of what not to do and what to do. Trust and believe me. I was actually inspired to do this video because of this 4B movement that has taken over the social media world. In case many of you do not know, the 4B movement is a feminist movement that has kind of been popular in Korea amongst feminists and is making its way over to the Western world. So now on TikTok, there's a lot of discourse and commentary about the 4B movement, why Korean women or some Korean women are choosing to go that route, and why a lot of Western women would like to go that route.
More and more American women are wanting to join our Korean sisters in the 4B movement, especially after the New York puncher emerged. He has been since identified as Skabokibi Stora, Marcus Garvey's grandson. He's been going around punching random women in New York. He even had the audacity to create a TikTok page, posting the videos of his attacks on these women. The 4B movement is a feminist movement that started in South Korea in 2019. In this movement, women are choosing to reject 4 major activities. I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to pronounce these words, so I'm just going to name them B1, B2, B3, and B4. B1 is having intercourse with men. B2, raising children. B3, dating men. And B4, getting married to men. This movement is a direct response to the deeply rooted patriarchal culture in South Korea. The culture has led to several issues, including gender discrimination. Women in South Korea often face discrimination and unequal treatment compared to men. Unequal domestic labor. Women are expected to take on a disproportionate amount of household chores and childcare responsibilities. Violence against women. Many women in South Korea experience various forms of violence, including physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. The 4B movement is a way for women to stand up against these problems and create a more equal and just society. By rejecting traditional roles and expectations, the women involved in this movement are taking a powerful stance and demanding change. I think it's time that women in America need to start their own version of the 4B movement because men ain't.
Korean women have no idea what the 4B movement is, and we need to stop this misinformation.
Okay, so thank you to my friend Annie for making that video because I am a Korean woman currently living in Korea and I have so much to say about this topic. So most of the 4B movement videos that I've seen on TikTok are made from foreigners, and I think Korean Americans or just Asian people living in the West, but not actually people living in Korea. So like I said, I live in Seoul. What I think is happening is the Western media likes to really pick up on these sensationalist provocative topics and then makes it into an article, and then everyone on TikTok follows suit and makes videos about it. But let me tell you, I am 29, going to turn 30 this year, and literally all the conversations that I have with my friends around my age is about, oh my god, we're looking to get married, we need to find good partners, and we need to do this before it gets too late or we're just like aged out of their marriage market, you know? And I just made a YouTube video about this, Korea's population crisis, why nobody is getting married or having babies. But I also explained there are services in Korea like marriage matchmaking services where people go and you pay a broker and you submit all this information about yourself, your income, your assets, your family background, if you have any debt, like which university you went to, you submit all that information, and then they take that and then they will try to match you up with people who they think that you're on par with. So you know how you see in K-dramas how like the poor girl ends up marrying the richest CEO of Korea? Yeah, in reality that never happens. So people go to these marriage services and they're heavily used. There are literally so many in the country because everyone is using them. And so the 4B movement in Korea is a very, very small fraction of the whole Korean population in general. It's just the Western media likes to highlight that part and make it seem like it's the biggest issue in Korea, which it really, really is not. I can promise you that. Don't believe all those sensational articles written online all the time. Most people in Korea still like the other sex. We want to date, we want to find love, we want to get married. Those are like the big majority.
A lot of people have a lot to say about Korean feminism these days and the way they completely want to keep men out of their lives, like the 4B movement, where they just swear off having children with men, you know, or getting married, sleeping with men, or even just dating. Just to let people know, it's called a 4B movement because it's 4 no's. The word P means no in Korean, so P something means no this. And combined with the fertility crisis in Korea, this has become a very sensitive issue, but none of this is very shocking to me, that a lot of Korean women want to swear off men, because I've seen how bad Korean patriarchy can be. And this is very well represented in Korean literature, most famously in Kim Ji-young, born 1982. But what really told me the extent of how severe Korean patriarchy used to be was Please Look After Mom by Shin Kyung-soo. Aside from the main plot, which is about a family's struggle to search for their lost mother, the book describes the married life of the mother and the father, and it's set only, 2 generations away from my generation. And the patriarch in this portrayal doesn't work all that much, if at all. All he really is that he's the head of the family. She works, takes care of the kids, takes care of the home, while her husband does nothing and goes out to sleep with other women, drink with his friends, and do whatever he wants. At the end of the day, he can come back to the nest whenever he wants with no consequences of any kind. And that was apparently quite common in Korea before, where men don't do anything but just for existing, they were valued. The eldest male had power over everyone in the family and let nobody do anything without his consent, including other younger males like a little brother. This is 가부장제, a system where the eldest male takes all decision-making powers within the family unit. This is also 남아선호 사상, where they prefer male children to female children. Like, if women weren't able to produce male children, they were collectively punished by the rest of the family. Going back to Kim Ji-young, born 1982, the main character's little sister is aborted because she was a girl, and that happened very widely in the 80s and the 90s. People just aborted girls because they wanted boys. I mean, in the 60s, when medical technology wasn't, widely available and developed enough, they just throw infant girls away. Very akin to taking out the trash. That happened quite often in those times. And to me, people saying how radical Korean feminism has become don't realize that this is a proportional response to how bad it was for women, how they were just viewed as mere tools in Korean society before, how they were expendable outside of making babies, making sons more specifically. Everyone back in Korea called my mom 진우 엄마, meaning Chinu's mom. And actually back in Korea, all my friends' moms were called like this. 민우 엄마, 유리 엄마, 재성 엄마. And that was their names basically. Only once in Canada, everyone called my mom by her name, and she finally wasn't just Chinu's mom anymore. And you may think this is trivial, but it's a part of how Korean society forces women into a role and makes them lose themselves in the process. And in the end, all that Korean women are asking for is to be treated like human beings and not go back to those days when they were nothing except their wombs.
Some women, they have taken this journey and they're, satisfied with being single. However, I do know, especially if you're subscribed to this channel, that some of you do want relationships, and maybe some of you are thinking about it, and some of you may want to find your mate or may want your mate to find you, whichever comes first. So I just think that for me personally, I love men. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I love men. I love being in a partnership with my husband. I think it's one of the best decisions that I've made in my life, even if he gets on my last nerve sometimes. And yes, we do have personality differences, but I wouldn't want it any other way, because having a life partner and someone that you can share life with, there's something beautiful about that, about going through a life journey with someone and being able to be protected, feeling like you don't have to handle the load on your own. And people don't talk about that enough. When you're single, you do a lot of those things yourself. You have to find everything on your own. And some people will be like, well, I'll just hire somebody, or I'll just do this. That person's only there for a little bit of time and then they're gone. But having someone there that is truly there to protect you, to love you, to serve you, and to be with you, it makes all the difference in the world. However, I will say that there are some men who do not have those qualities, and this is why I've decided to make this video. Now that we got that out the way, I know some of y'all listen. If you would like to be single and singleness is for you and you just cannot imagine your life with someone else, then you can click off this video right away. I'm not trying to bash a single life, because guess what? Sometimes we are single by choice and sometimes it's just because of circumstances. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't feel like you need to have a mate to be happy. My video is just for those who would like to have a mate and who are seeking a mate. Then this advice applies to them. So I don't want people to feel targeted and think that I'm trying to force people to get married. That is not my ministry. That's not what I believe in. I believe that everyone has a ministry and everyone has something that they're called to, and not everyone is called to marriage. It just is what it is. Some people may think they're called to marriage. However, if you are in a certain point of your life where you feel like you would be better alone, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing. There are some people who actually function better alone than in a partnership. So I want to get that out the way as well, as a disclaimer. Now let's get into the advice. So my first tip would be to choose someone who has a great relationship with their mom. Now, I know this could get a little intense, so I'm gonna explain what I mean. I'm not talking about a mama's boy, because I do not like mama's boys. Not someone who has a relationship with their mom where it becomes kind of like the mother and son are like in a weird pseudo relationship. I know there are a lot of mother-son dynamics where it feels like the son is the mom's husband. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a healthy relationship with their mom. So mom is very involved in their life, but not too involved where she's making decisions. A man that has a healthy relationship with his mom is the man that you should choose to be with. And the reason for that is that I find that men who have healthy relationships with their mothers tend to treat their wives better and treat their partners better. My husband has an excellent relationship with his mom, and it is not the mama's boy, like my son never does any wrong. His mom is basically there as an accountability partner. His mom has raised him to take accountability for his actions, and his mom raised him to be a man. And his dad also raised him as well. Don't get me wrong, he was raised by both parents, but his mom raised him to be a man, or how a husband should be to his wife. So for example, my mother-in-law taught my husband how to clean. She taught Dom how to cook. She taught Dom how to take care of himself. All of those things I feel are very necessary, especially when you get married, because you can't be mothering a man. Moms who are actively involved with their sons and show their sons the way of life and how to treat women, they usually fare better in relationships overall. My husband pretty much was emotionally ready to get married because his mom did the work, and she put in the work so that he could be a better husband and he could be a good husband to a woman. I remember having a conversation with my mother-in-law about that, and I actually thanked her because I was like, wow, because of you, I don't feel like I am a mother to my husband. When I thanked her for that, she said to me, I would never want my son to be a burden on his wife. And I feel like that was key to her. And she is a Korean woman. And that's why I was talking about the 4B movement ahead, like a few moments back, is because my mother-in-law is a traditional Korean woman. She's super traditional. She's very, very quiet, demure, but she understands that her son will have to marry someone, and eventually her son will have to be responsible for a household. And how much of a disservice would it be for her to not teach him those things? So yes, make sure he has a healthy relationship with his mom. Make sure he is close to his mother. Make sure he takes care of her, or he knows how to take care of her. Those men usually fare way better in relationships. It would make no sense for him to have a healthy relationship with his mother and mistreat you. I just find that that's strange. And I find most of the men that do mistreat you do not have a healthy relationship with their mother or their mama's boys, meaning that their mom is very domineering, very over assertive, and controls their life, and they have no say in that. And I feel like those are the men that you should watch out for. Watch out for men who have unhealthy, toxic relationships with their mom, and watch out for men who have been abandoned by their mom, because that takes such a traumatic toll on a child when their mom or father abandons them. And when you have that kind of situation, you just have to be careful with that, because those family dynamics, they don't go away, and that internalized trauma doesn't go away so easily. And it takes time for them to relearn how to love someone and how to love, especially you as a woman. If you're someone's wife and he has such a bad relationship with his mother, it will affect you and it will affect your children. So that's something to be mindful of. Tip number 2, choose a man who values your independence. Yes, y'all. INDEPENDENT. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he better value your independence and your INDEPENT life. So what I would say to that is, a lot of men out there say, I can't be with a woman who's too independent. I can't be with a woman who doesn't listen to me. I can't be with a woman who has a mind of her own. She gotta be submissive. She has to be demure. She has to be quiet when a man speaks. She better, when I go like this, she better cook for me. No, we don't do none of that in this household, okay? So one thing that Dom valued about me was my independence. He loved the fact that I didn't rely on him. I didn't need him for nothing. And not saying that you shouldn't have some times where you can be soft and you can be feminine and you can rest in your femininity and let your man take over. I'm not talking about that. We don't want an argumentative person. Now that's a whole difference. You can be independent and still rely on your man. But there are just some levels of independence that you should have for yourself. You should have your own. Personally, I still have my own bank account. Why? Because if anything were to happen to Dom, anything, and I'm saying not just him, because people just focus on, oh yeah, if you get a divorce. That's not it. What if something, happened to him in life? And what if everything was under his name? How would I be, it's just little things like that. Dom appreciated the fact that I was independent and that I also have my own, and I didn't have to rely on him as much. And I feel like that's a breath of fresh air for a lot of people, because you don't want to be too dependent on someone. Again, this is my opinion only. I just really believe that you should have your own life, and he should have his own life, and together you guys can build something together. But who you were before you met him is who you should still be. You should still be going out with your friends. You should still be pursuing the hobbies that you want to pursue. You should still be in the mind frame of doing things to better yourself in your career, if that is what you want. And one thing that Dom always tells me is, he's like, I want us to be like the Jay-Z and the Beyonce, like kind of have that power couple dynamic where it's like, you can be independent and you can also have your career. You can also have different things. And when we try to work things out in our future, we always include, okay, what are you going to be doing? Okay, I don't want you to just stay home with the kids. I want you to be able to go to work. How can we make sure that our finances reflect your independence as well? There are a variety of ways that you can build your independence within a relationship. Being independent does not mean that you won't be able to get married. That is not the case. You just have to find a man who values that. Some men value career-driven women. Dom does. He broke up with one of his exes because she was not ambitious. He was like, for me, I just want my woman to be able to do things for herself. I want her to thrive on her own and to have her own life, her own hobbies, her own thing. Because he's always at the gym. He's always doing different things. And I think for him, it would bother him if I wasn't as ambitious as him. And he said that being ambitious together motivates us to grow and to get to where we need to be faster. Some men do not want that. Some men want a woman who's submissive, who doesn't work, stay-at-home mom, all that stuff, which there's no shade to that because every marriage works differently. However, for me personally, I am very quite independent. Whatever it is that you want to do, having a man that understands that and values that makes a world of a difference, and you won't have to convince him otherwise. Like, he'll be supportive and he'll be with you and he'll find ways to make your dreams come true. Now, tip number 3, and that ties into tip number 2, is find a man who is motivated. Finding a man who is motivated makes such a difference in your marital life. I promise you guys, this probably was the number one thing that attracted me to Dom, and that is still the number one thing that attracts me to him. Is he's just very consistent in being motivated. I love the fact that my husband always thinks beyond what is right now. He looks over everything. Like, he thinks 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, God willing that we make it that long as far as in our lives. Like, you know, you can't take every day for granted, of course, but God willing that we make it to 10, 20, 30 years being alive here. We have goals, we have dreams. We always want to know the next step. And my husband always has so many goals. And when he finishes one, he crosses it off, he works on the next one. Being with a motivated man will help you get to where you need to be financially. And also, being with a motivated man will help you to be able to support that man. You cannot support an unmotivated man. An unmotivated man will literally suck the life out of you. Imagine you're the one going out, you're the one grinding hard, you're the one doing what you can to make your lives better, and that person is just comfortable staying stagnant. For me, that can't work for me, and that's the kind of personality I have. And if you have a similar personality like that, where you're a go-getter, you like to go into the next level, you never like to stay stagnant, you always like to be on the move and like to do different things, I believe that finding someone who matches your motivation is key. I truly believe a man who can't work or who doesn't work and who is unmotivated, how will they be able to take care of you in the future if things do not go the way that they're supposed to? One of the main reasons why I am a big advocate of being with someone who is motivated is that life can change at any moment. At any moment, you could be in a position where you're no longer able to work. Or he could be in a position where he gets kicked out of his career and he has to start over. And if you're with someone who is comfortable being in a certain space and is unmotivated, it will be hard for you to get that person to continue to go on. A person who is naturally motivated will find new ways of getting things done. They will find new ways of thinking of things. They will always be creative because they're constantly moving. They're constantly working their minds. They're constantly trying to be a better person. And if one thing doesn't work, they shift to the next thing. They shift to the next thing. They're not people who stay stagnant. I know for a fact that if anything goes down, Dom got us. I don't have to worry about that because I know he knows how to fish. He knows how to get fish. He knows how to work hard to get where he needs to be. So I don't have to worry about those things. I know that I can trust my husband to make it happen because he has consistently made things happen for himself and he consistently works on different things. So all in all, finding a man who is motivated is key. A man who will do what he needs to do without you bugging him and asking him, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? No, he should be able to hold it his own. And that to me is a sign that that man is someone that you should be with. You should look for that quality in a man, no questions asked. So tip number 4 is to find an emotionally balanced man. Finding a man who is emotionally available is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And the reason for that is you will have arguments. You will have times where you guys need to be able to communicate. And if you have someone who is not emotionally available and who doesn't know how to handle their emotions, that will hurt you. A person who has a short temper, a person who pops off at any moment's notice. Watch how he reacts in situations. Imagine if something happens, like let's say even something small, like a person forgets to hold the door open for him and he pops in like, oh, that person, da 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 da, he's a loose cannon. That's the kind of person that you can't be around. That's a dangerous man to be around. A man who is not emotionally intelligent will destroy you and your family because you can't take him nowhere. Where you gonna take him? He probably can't keep a job because if you have that kind of temperament, how are you able to work? And how are you able to provide for your family? So for me, you have to be with someone who can understand your emotions, understand where you're coming from, who likes to take accountability. Now, that's a strong thing. You can't be with someone who doesn't like to take accountability. That person is someone you should stay away from because we're not perfect. I can never go in my life and say that I've never done anything. Sometimes you have to be able to take accountability for what you do. And a man who doesn't like to take accountability, who doesn't like to show that they're wrong, that's a dangerous person that you shouldn't be around. So for me, someone who is emotionally available will communicate their feelings to you. They will not be afraid. They will not play games with you. They won't leave you being confused. You will never be confused with an emotionally available man. He will let you know where he stands at any moment, how he thinks and what he thinks. And even if it's something you don't want to hear, you would rather be with someone who can be honest with you and who can communicate things with you than someone who is emotionally unavailable, who shuts you out, who ignores you, who doesn't think or who doesn't consider your feelings in anything. An emotionally intelligent and available man is the man that you should be looking for. Another tip that I have, this one is a bonus tip and it might be controversial, but I have to say this. I want to be as honest as I can when I make these videos. I know that there are certain things I say that may rub people the wrong way, and I'm okay with that, but I have to get the information out based on my observations. So again, this is my opinion and my opinion only, but I would say do not date men who have multiple children. Now, the reason why I say this is because it is hard for a man or a woman, so that's both, who have multiple children and to be able to prioritize a relationship with someone new. I know some people do it, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. However, I would say that it is very rare to find someone whose wife or baby mama is not involved in the kid's life. And if the wife or baby mama is also emotionally intelligent and he's emotionally intelligent and they're able to work together and have a partnership and co-parent properly, then this doesn't apply to those kind of men. What I'm talking about is men who have multiple children and they just scatter their seed everywhere. And trust me, there are a lot of men like that out there. These kind of men will not do they will not be of benefit to you. I'm being honest. And some people, they might disagree with me, but a man who has multiple children, that is going to cause you a lot, especially if you do not have children, or especially if you have one child maybe. I think that dating someone with multiple children is going to be too difficult to sustain. And that person cannot put their attention and prioritize your relationship. You will have to sacrifice a lot. And you will have to sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of patience, and also see how he treats his children too. For one, why are you having multiple children and you're not with those mothers? That's a red flag. Let's say he doesn't have multiple children and he has one child. How old is this child? Many men, they go out there and the child is like less than a year old. Sir, how are you not working it out with your baby's mother or your ex-wife? Those are red flags that we should be paying attention to, because how are you dating and gallivanting out in these streets and you literally just had a fresh baby? Any child that is under 5 years old and he comes out here, he's like, hey, me and my baby moms, it didn't work out, or me and my partner, my ex-partner, it didn't work out. Why? So for me, that's a big no-no. Do not date someone who has children or multiple children. And if he does have a child, you need to investigate and find out what happened. How old is this child? What happened? And why didn't it work out with the mom? Now, I'll even go further and say this. Let's say you meet a single man, you both are single, you have no kids. I would delay having children as long as we can. Dom and I are into our 3rd year, and now we just began trying. I probably say in like when he moved here in November. So January was when we were like, okay, we're gonna decide trying. And the reason why we delayed it for so long is because kids cause stress, it's headaches. And as much of a blessing as I see children can be, they can also cause a lot of stress and strain in a relationship. We have to start being wiser and making better decisions and choosing our partners. The reason why I am so big on that is because I realized that the longer that I waited, the better that my choices were. And I know that some people say, oh, you're gonna hit the wall. You ain't gonna be able to find a good man. So you better speed it up. Find a man in your 20s. Find a man in your teens. If I chose the men that I dated in my 20s, I would not be able to give you this advice. I'd be on the other side. And I'm talking about the dark side. I'm pretty sure that I'd probably be unhappy, unfulfilled, and I'd be with someone who is not there in their minds, like not emotionally, mentally where I need them to be. I know that we have a society where they rush you and they say, oh, you need to speed it up. Your eggs are declining. And that may be true because science doesn't lie. We do age, and sometimes our eggs do not function the way they're supposed to as we age. However, if that means that I may not ever have kids, well, then so be it. Because I would rather choose right and do it right the first time and at least have the rest of my life to figure out how we want to have kids. Technology has advanced where we can make things happen now. So I would rather be with a man who has all the qualities that I need. And I'm not talking about physical, like he gotta look fine, he gotta be 5'11", he gotta do this. No, I'm talking about the other important qualities that I mentioned before. I would rather wait for that than to be with someone and just be with someone just to be with them and just to speed things up in my life. And that's exactly what I did. Got married at 34, and I'm happy that I chose this route because it really gave me time to vet people out, especially when I started really understanding the decision that I was making would affect me forever and would affect my children forever. I want to be able to have kids with someone who has those qualities. Why? Because I do believe in legacy. I believe in healthy generations to come. And that's a big responsibility for me. If I am blessed to be a mom, I want to create a legacy that is based on healthy relationships and healthy emotions and just living a healthier life. It takes time to find your right mate, but it'll be worth it in the end. So take your time. Don't feel rushed. Don't feel like, you need to find someone right away because your clock is ticking. And I know it's easier said than done, but trust me when I say it is worth the wait than you rushing and getting into something that you can't get out of and making permanent decisions based off of temporary situations. On that note, thank you so much for watching this video. So next week, I'm going to be giving my review on this YouTube series called No Ordinary Love. Someone in my comment section had recommended this series to me, and I got a lot to say about that, so y'all stay tuned. But until then, please take care of your beautiful selves, and until next time, bye.